Hello, my name is Bryant Hunt. Today is the 15th day of April, 2022, that is. And what I'm going to share with you is what we call here in America the procedure of certified mail. There's a thing called here in the United States called the U.S. Postal Service. It probably does a lot of business for Amazon. I think they had the contract with them. And I have asked, repeat, I have asked a worker who works for post office, does Amazon get priority? And she said, yes, they do. They get the priority. So if you send something UPS, I'm not United States Postal Service, 1 day or 2 day delivery or whatever, um, and there's Amazon stuff there, yours gets set to the side. Okay, that's what I meant simply is that they get prerequisite of everything. So Amazon gets that. That's why they have a contract with the Postal Service. Most are not aware of that. Uh, it's all about those who buy politicians off and buy off certain government officials. That's how corrupt it is here in America. What I wanted to share with you is something here, what we call a certified mail deal, and this is what it looks like. And what it is simply is you have a identification number at the bottom, which is a little sticker. And what I've encountered here is what I would call some issues. What I've done simply is I'm following a particular guy named Chris Hauser, and I understand simply is that the Social Security system that is we all are a part of, most of us, probably 99.8 or 99% of the people here in America are in some way not knowing what they did or not did. That's not the point. The point simply is that um, what it does simply is if you send some mail, and this is based upon the postal rule, because the court system here in America, you know, if they want to send something out, it is far easier for them to use the postal service with their dockets or certified mail, so to speak, to get people to sign their name without even looking into the mail. And Chris Hauser discovered it basically. Most people are fooled by this because what happens is that the signature on these things means that you signed a contract. That's what it means. Chris has figured that out. And all of us have here, most of us here, like I said, have social security cards. That is a trust, folks. That's your trust. And there's millions and millions of dollars in that trust. And Chris Hauser has proven that. And we're being lied to again and being and told that we're not important when we are, because when we became the collateral, we were given this option, so to speak, because Roosevelt knew to simply is that that had to create this in some ways to give people the initiative that though they would have something in the future. After all, they just stole their gold, you see. So this is like we're going to deal with the karma here right now, so to speak. So anyway, what I want to talk to you about simply is I've sent about 7 of these out in the last 10 to 12 days, maybe a little longer. And I know it takes a little longer. And I've sent what they call not first, but first class mail. There is such a thing as first class mail and third class mail. My dad used to work for the post office, and he said there's no difference between the third class and the first class. Okay, get that? So if you throw it in the first class bundle, third class goes right along with it. It's just a way of being clever and saying, so we make money on this way for first class, while third class simply it's the same service. So I thought I'd tell you that. I think I've shared that before, but anyway, I thought I'd share this again. So what I'm telling the people who I owe, or credit cards, or internet service, or anything I pay for via check, is that uh, I have a trust, and you are the trustees. You see, when you send me something, you send me a bill, what we call the coupon. That coupon simply is there sharing with you, showing you that basically you are the trustee. We're taking out $175.41 on your electric bill here this month. Just letting you know what it is. It's not what you think it is. They've been clever at their lies. So that 175.41 has already been taken out of your trust. Same thing with your credit card. Credit card simply is if you have a $5,000 limit or $10,000 limit, whatever they tell you, such and such. They've already taken that out of your trust in order to create that credit. So they haven't lost anything. And then what they do is they're clever and they send you a bill and then you pay that. So not only have they taken the $10,000, say you run up a debt of $4,500. Well, you pay $1,400. You pay $1,450 out of your trust. And if you are charged interest on those cards, which I don't pay interest, I choose a 0% credit card. So for so many months, usually 18 months, sometimes 12, sometimes 18. And I usually go for that good deal of that nature because I'm not interested in paying interest on a loan. So what takes place simply is not only that, so you say, so it's $1,450, but if you have to pay interest on that, they're making money off of nothing, you see. So they've already taken out $1,450 out of your, what am I saying? I took 10,000. So let's say 10,000 plus 1,450. So that's $14,500. But you don't know that. That's credit. Credit means credit given to you. I give you credit for what you did for me, such and such, whatever. Okay. You did a great job on your paper. You get a credit for such and such. Okay. What we've been told simply is we have to pay that bill back. That's not true. So what I'm doing simply is to letting them know that my name, such and such. I'm letting you know that simply is that you need to know that simply is I'm giving you permission to take that money out. I know what you're saying. Thank you. Da da da. I don't need to send you a check. I don't need to send you a money order. You see, because it's already paid for. And that's what Chris Hauser has discovered about this. So I've had 3 of these things here, and what they do is simply is that what you're supposed to do on these cards, and you will look closer here, you'll see you have a signature and what you call a print part here on the right-hand side, maybe your left. Okay, well, how that works simply is they're supposed to print that name and they're supposed to use cursive writing, their signature. And the signature gives me knowledge knowing simply they received the letter before they even actually open it. That's what they do to you when they summons you to court. And when they do that, is to your knowledge simply is to understand simply is that you don't sign that. If you do, then you are making yourself responsible, and now you got yourself in a ball of wax here, so to speak. So what's happened simply is that these things have been sent off, and I went to the postmaster and asked him what's the deal here? Why is there no signature? Why is so he looks it up on the computer, he looks at the number, such and such, he says they haven't delivered it. I said, no, they have delivered it. How could they? He said, well, what they've done simply is they're just tearing these off. So they're tearing these off and they're getting away with it because the post office workers either don't know any better or they're allowed to do this. And he told me simply is that in big cities, they tend to get a whole box of these things, such and such. I'm like, I don't give a damn. I paid you. I paid the post office $3.75 or $4, whatever it is here, to do this. I take my time to do this in order to get a certified piece of mail to someone. And this is how lawyers do this too. Okay. They've always done it. Sheriff offices do this, such and such, all this stuff. So what I'm telling you is that they didn't do the job. So he also made a comment, which I knew this. He said, yeah, it's a post office box. And I said, yes, I know that. My dad had a business, and the post office box we had here in Aiken was P.O. Box 1123. That's the post office box we had. The mail came to a box inside the postal service here in Aiken. And if we got something of this nature in mail, we had to sign for it in order to get it. Okay? You understand that? So these people are able to not sign anything, but yet they get it, the mail. And I've already had one particular company that actually wrote me back. And are you trying to change your address or something? No, no. So what I'm going to do next is simply is I'm going to find their physical address and try to do it that way. My point simply is this. Let me explain something to you. Very simple. Your driver's license. It's in all caps. That's your straw man. That's in order to operate in a commercial world in the law of C, you have to have a driver's card, driver's license. You can get away with it, but you'll be badgered by the policeman wanting to see your credit card, not credit card, but your driver's license and your quote unquote proof of insurance. And I know that simply as Georgia did something which I did not like, is that they wanted to fingerprint you. How dare you do that? They would do that, and they would have fingerprints on profile. Now, the state of South Carolina, as far as I know, when I basically bought this card license, I think it was $20 for 8 years. Is that right? Or 6 years, 8 years here. There is no there's no what I call a deal here that that allows you to. It's not a card that basically says you can enter a federal office. Who cares? I don't want to go to federal office. That's how they fool you. The federal office basically means the courthouse. Do you follow what I'm saying? They threaten you saying simply you can't go in a federal office, such and such. But the post office is not a federal office, then, is it? Hmm? And if you go to your local library, again, it's not a federal office neither. So they use this as a way to actually fool you. And the only federal offices I know of would be simply the court system. And I don't want anything to do with that. It's a corrupt system there. Why would I want to go in? I'll be a part of their shenanigans. So, so I'll try something different this time. I'm going to use a physical address, their main office, so to speak, and see how that works. If that doesn't work, I'm going to use a 1099A. And I'm waiting for those forms to come from the, what is it called? Internal Revenue Service. The Internal Revenue Service, folks, is nothing to do with the government. It's a private organization, just like the Federal Reserve is a private organization, or the private privatization of the Fed. So the Federal Reserve is a group of private bankers. So it's private. Do you follow? And so they're allowing, see, this is what Chris is saying. They allow, see, these people do this type of thing. They also file what they call a 501c3 type of thing. So they're tax exempt. Most of these do that. And that's what they do. And that's what I was trying to give an illustration of in the past here recently with the library, that there are companies coming in and giving money and getting their name on certain things, what they do. Well, that's part of Agenda 21. You see, it all fits in here. And eventually that local library will no longer be yours. You see, you paid for it. There's also simply is that all the roads are public roads. You know that? All roads are public unless they're toll roads. Then it's a different situation. And I can't really give you an answer to that. I don't see why in the world that the state charges you for a toll road when you have already paid for the roads everywhere else. I am against it. It's another way of making money. And you need to sometimes get into what nothing. I'll talk about that later. So I'm going to use a 1099A form, which is basically such a conditional acceptance. And what that means simply is that I tried to communicate with you, da 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 da, and you haven't really basically agreed with what I'm doing, or you keep pushing me away, or you're not answering me. And I'm saying, okay, we're going to play hardball now, and it's not going to be no round ball. We're going to play games with you. This is going to be more serious, and you're gonna deal with, and you're going to come to the understanding that what you're giving me and what you take out of it is my trust. And you fool people waiting, and people who fool themselves and believe this simply, oh, like I had a friend to tell me this just about a year ago. So when are you going to get your money out of the Social Security? And I told him, what Social Security? He said, well, you can get your early retirement. I said, I don't know, getting early retirement. He says, why not? I said, I'm not getting any retirement from Social Security. I don't want anything from them. That's what I didn't understand at that point. Now I've come to understand simply that Social Security is my trust, and knowing simply that they fool people when there's older people, 65 years old, and they tell people, "Oh, well, we need you to sign this because you see, you got to have a signature." Well, you have to have a signature to get into trust because that's your trust, right? So why would you need to get a signature? Because what they're doing is they're offering you maybe 1 to 2%, maybe not even that much out of your whole trust. You see, we became the collateral in 1933. Roosevelt did that. And if you start putting these pieces together, you're starting to see, wait a minute, this is terrible what they're doing in this way. And as a court decision that was taking place, I think in 1996, I'll have to look it up. But basically, a particular person was on trial, and he asked the question simply is, am I an American citizen or am I a U.S. citizen? And the judge gave him the question answer. It says, you're both. So I have to give you that court decision. KL shared that the other day on Crow's program. So I thought I would share that with you because some of us are trying to get out of the system, and then some are fine with being in the system. Some are being told that this is the anti-Christ deal. I don't think it is. I don't take things literal, anti-Christ. I think anti-Christ means to be more of a spiritual issue, being anti-Christ, being not seeking Christ consciousness. That would be what I would take on it. You're welcome to share your viewpoint on that. I'm not saying I know the answer in that regard. I don't, but that's what I'm thinking of. But the literal interpretation from most churches is that antichrist is when you take the mark of the beast, so to speak, either by your hand or your head or whatever. What I was taught. That's mainly what we call in conservative dispensational churches that teach that. Most of the regular churches, your larger churches, don't teach that. But many people do believe this type of thing. I do believe that simply is that the signs are in the sky at night, and that most of us are not aware of that. There are changes taking place all around us, and one of the big signs I think is what I should have actually feel like is correct. I could be wrong, but it's by a lady named Levette, who points out, and we know this simply is there's going to be a cross that's going to cross the United States, and one's already came through in 2017 when the sun eclipse, the solar eclipse took place. And then the next one will be in 2024, which is only 2 years away. Another solar eclipse will take place, and it will come from Mexico and will cross all the way up to the northeast towards Maine. And so it actually crosses near probably 20 miles north of Cairo, Illinois, maybe 25 miles at Cairo, Illinois. And I see that as a major sign. I also see signs simply is that whatever is occurring with the moon. Some people say that the moon has been actually the last few weeks have been saying the moon's been stationary in a certain projectile going across the same time and being there, and it should be moving, and it's not. So anyway, I didn't want to get into that diatribe, but what I wanted to share with you is simply this whole deal with simply is, and so this is a I meant to show you this. This is a certified mail receipt. This is official use. But here's something else I just learned also. Um, there's such a thing as registered mail. And that's when the post office cannot look into the mail. I never knew this. My dad talked about it, but I don't think he knew what it was about neither. So the registered mail is in all red. The regular mail is in black or blue. So think about those symbols, the colors, what do they mean? Registered mail simply is that, for example, he said that he communicated with the former president of the United States, Trump, and it was through the registered mail instead of actually the office of the president of the United States, such and such, which gets get opened by somebody else. Now he's claiming that he did that. That's what KL said. I don't know, but I do know simply there is such a thing as registered mail and regular mail. Okay, so I won't go any more on that and share with you this tonight. But lead way here. Don't be so quick to sign up for your retirement because that's what they want you to do. And another thing I would suggest you do, you need to get real money in one way or the other. When I mean real money, that's gold and silver. The time's going to come that basically the paper is going to be destroyed because it's going to fall. It's going to fall. That's the whole idea of what's going on. That's why inflation is at this rate now because in certain countries, let me explain one more thing. Certain countries are getting these dollars, and the United States keeps printing them more and more. So they're being what we call inflation, but people don't understand the idea of what inflation is. And inflation is simply means dollar devaluation. The dollar is being devalued, so it's becoming worth less and less and less. Okay, for example, in I think in 1971 or 72, when Nixon took us off the gold standard, I think gold was $35 an ounce. I think it was paid for by $25 to the people, but eventually was rigged at 35 in 1933. So nothing in those almost 40 years changed with inflation with the dollar, meaning that the gold itself stayed the same at $35 an ounce, a troy ounce. And so what's taking place since then, as you look on your deal here, and we also know simply they're playing games with what we call paper gold. So when I went to get some silver the other day, it shows simply is that the market shows us at $24, $24 to $25. And so I paid $29.50. So it's $4 over spot where I got it at. Okay. Now, you need to understand this clearly. If you're going to buy silver or gold, you need to understand that those that sell this silver and gold are buying it or getting it from someone else. People are selling their gold and silver because they need it for cash. So there are those, and I'm basing this upon what we call the silver market. So the silver works this way. If it's $25 at the market, which is not, okay, that's not the real value. It's being manipulated again. Everything's manipulated in the stock market to look something looks great and people go after it. And then things say, well, I'm not making any money on the silver and gold because it's not going up. That's not the point here. That's not the key. Okay. You have it in your hands and you will be able to barter with it or buy certain items with it. Okay. If you're in a dire situation, I've tried to explain this to people. If you have gold, you may be able to have an operation or a deal with something medical with a doctor who will take a gold coin for the procedure. Because at that point, simply paper won't be worth anything and they won't mess with it. Think about the idea of what's going on in Venezuela right now. Think about what took place in Zimbabwe. Dramatically increased. And we go back to Germany and the Weimar Republic, and they had paper money and wheelbarrows just to be able to quote unquote paper money and wheelbarrows just to buy a loaf of bread. That's asinine, folks. So what I'm trying to share with you is like there is a place here that I went to, and I asked him, what was it? What are you paying me for this? He told me what it was. And I said, well, okay. And then later on I came back another day. I said, well, what would you what I want to buy some silver coins. Tell me how much of that'd be. And it was $9.50 over spot. So I knew this guy was making far more. And it's now, in fact, some places, I don't know if it's in that place now, but I've already heard rumors that basically it's $12.50 over spot. So there's no regulations going on. In other words, what's happening is this. Let's go back to this guy I bought this silver from. He's a reputable place. I've dealt with him. He's in Augusta, Georgia. Dealt with him. Know their family, not well, but I know him, such and such. Used to deal with him probably back, over 10 years ago. Actually, more than 10 years ago, probably 15 to 20 years ago. And I bought some from him. Okay. So the whole idea simply is with this, what I'm sharing with you is that it was only $2.03, $2 or $3 over spot. Okay. There's such a thing as junk silver, and junk silver it's not junk, but it's silver is in coins that were 1964 to the past. So if they're coins that are 64 and past, they have silver in them. Some have 40% of silver in them. Depends on what you're looking for. What are those? Well, it's either going to be the silver dollar. It's going to be either a half a dollar, which is a 50-cent piece, and then the quarters, which are 25-cent. And there's some dimes were also done with that, with a smaller percentage of silver in them. So they're worth more. So I recall, I'm just going to tell you this, when I bought silver that way, it was $4.25 for half dollars. You see, well, it was only 50 cents. Yes. But the silver was worth such and such, and the value of it was $4.25, $4.25. So it's worth it's $3.75 difference. So when you look at the market today, and recently now it's changed back, I don't know what it is today, I didn't check it, but it's been in the 1900s, it's been in the 2000s, and that's for gold. But you can't get gold for that, folks. Especially American Eagles. They're probably in the neighborhood of $2,200. Now let's go back. In 2011, the silver market exploded by a certain person. The person was the one who is it Bernie Madoff? No, it's not Bernie Madoff. It's the guy who owns Berkshire, owns Burleson Northern Santa Fe. He owns I can't think of his name right now. He's been on recently. He's stating it right clearly. He's stating it on TV that yeah, I feel sorry for people who are poor. I feel sorry for people because they're going to get crushed. He's telling you what's coming. Okay. So I'm trying to think of the guy's name. I can't think of his name. He's the one who he had an enormous amount of silver, and he traded his silver in approximately $45 to $50 an ounce back in 2011, I think it was, or 2010. And then the market depreciated back down, came back down, such and such. So actually, silver itself is a steal. Okay. But it's been as high as nearly over $50 an ounce. Most people are not aware of that, but that was caused by him because they manipulated the market. See, they manipulated the market, these people did, in order for him to get what he wanted. You see, all these things take place for political favors. Now, he's not what I call a self-made man. He has made himself successful because basically he's listened to people who told him good advice, and he's made out really good. The reason why he got involved with buying a railroad was that he was very much against the pipeline, and most people were, because simply thought it was a bad thing. And maybe it wasn't a bad thing, folks, because he's the one that made the money off of that, because his railroad is the closest to the Canadian border. Do you follow? A lot of that oil comes from Canadian oil. Some of it does. Okay. It's shipped. Now, you used to didn't have tanker cars in the past that had oil, carry oil until 40 years ago. Yes, there was oil. Then they went away from that because it all was being transferred by pipeline. So they stayed this thing off. See, this is about money, folks. This is all about money. And they fool people, even the Indians on their property, such and such. They're going to run here such and such. How do you know that? Also, if you had a land patent, they cannot go across that. That's another curious thing. They cannot, they would have to go deviate from that property, such and such. Okay. So I'm just sharing with you how they manipulate people and people fight against it. Oh, this is terrible, such and such. They don't need to be doing. Well, now it's in tank cars. And that's what he wanted. It's about making money. That's what this is all about. It's always trying to fool people. This whole thing, probably in Ukraine, is a lot to do with oil too. And also in Syria, because there are companies out there fighting to get their oil to Europe. And some of those are actually American companies, probably. They're trying to go across this, the Arab world, such and such. And that's why we've been involved there. We don't say we're there, but we are. You know that. And the same thing may be true with the Ukraine deal, is to, quote unquote, I believe that's what part of it was about in 2014 when they threw out the other guy and this guy got in power. It's all about money. It's all about natural resources, about stealing. You know, that's what it's all about. Go back and look at the colonial history of Africa. It's all about stealing from other countries. The problem is today we still believe in countries, but in reality, there are no countries. They're just corporations, because corporations just simply pay money to so-and-so senators and such a House of Representatives to vote a certain way, and they argue such and such on it. And lo and behold, guess what? They get what they want because they're paid off. I'll help you out here, so-and-so, if you get me elected. And when it comes to that, oh, I'll scratch your back now, but when I need to be scratched, you'll come along and do that for me. Right? Right. And you'll profit from that. So it's not about, yeah, okay, it's about countries. No, it's no longer about countries, folks. It's about corporations. It's about corporations who want to control everything because they know if they control everything, they make a bigger piece of pie and there's less competition. So if there's less and less competition, which there is what's happening, you eliminated that market here. You eliminated all the jobs here in America. So it's all imported. So the country now spends its money and buys things that are foreign. So you're becoming more and more dependent upon foreigners instead of your own self. And here in the South, someplace, the two major industries that were the cotton mills and the furniture mills. They're gone. Only a few of them are left. Milliken is one. I think J.P. Stevens is one. And the cotton mills. I don't know if anybody in the furniture business is still in business. And all that took place was in the state of North Carolina, especially in the Hickory, Lenore area, Statesville area, where furniture was put together and made. Broyhill was one of the major companies. I think they're still in business, but you can't find anything. If you're looking for a kitchen table, you can't find anything made in America anymore. And there's a poo-poo about this whole thing. Simply, oh, we're saving trees. No, folks, they're not saving trees. They're cutting them down just like they've always been, except they're not going to Americans at all. Those trees are going to China or somewhere else because it's profitable to make money when you don't have to pay someone less than $2 an hour or whatever they pay them. Then what you had to pay here, Americans, you had to pay them, $10 or $15 an hour. And you had to pay their insurance. Yeah, you remember the day that simply if a woman wanted to work 40 hours, they could get 40 hours? You can't get that anymore. Oh, that's right. These corporations are really good at stealing, aren't they? So what they do simply is they not only you can't get but 40 hours, you have to have 2 or 3 jobs in order to get 40 hours a week. Then you don't have any insurance. They don't pay for your insurance neither. But the government comes along and says we have insurance. You see, this all was created. They create this whole thing, And people say, oh, see, they told people, oh, it's going to be a 4-day work week. It's a lie. People work now harder than ever before, and they struggle. They make less than what I made in the 1990s, maybe even the 80s. In the 80s, I worked at a textile plant, made making disposable diapers. I made approximately $7 to $8 an hour, depending upon production, maybe some more an hour. That was decent pay. Okay. Now they're offering people maybe $8 or $10 an hour, but they can't get 40 hours a week. So they have to work somewhere else. Oh, by the way, we don't provide insurance. And that was provided. I paid for it. What do I win at? I just really find that people who say they really care about people are the biggest hypocrites of all time. You don't need to say anything, you do it. And the problem simply is we have a lot of people out here preaching and saying we're helping people when that's a fucking lie. And I don't like liars. I hate liars. I hate them for what they do. They promise this and that. Anything that comes out of a stinking politician's mouth is a lie. I don't care what political party they're involved in, they're liars. Because they don't have any integrity and they don't have any character. Never have. That's how they get into office. And it's all about them, as simply as a power trip. For here in the state of South Carolina, simply is that one thing that really bothered me when most of you probably know who he is if you follow U.S. politics. U.S. Senator Strom Thurmond has served in the United States Senate probably since early 50s. He is the first candidate who ran as on a governor ticket, I think it was. Don't hold me to this. As a write-in candidate to win the governor of South Carolina. Never has ever been done before. Never has afterwards. So what took place here? Well, he was enormously popular, but he's also, did something else go on besides that? Did they run token candidates, quote unquote, against him? Who knows? But that's a wild deal when you think about it. That was in 48 when he ran in the three different candidates and got elected as a write-in candidate. A write-in. You wrote his name in on the ballot. You almost cannot do that anymore. In fact, you have to ask, when I was there, the poll manager job, oh, how do you write in someone's candidate, such and such? You'd have to do it such and such. But you used to write it in the pen. You had a place someplace you could write it in. It's amazing how this whole thing with this computer deal was all a rigged job too, how that was dealt with, because they basically, you don't have any paper trail with it. I knew that when I was working with them, when I eventually figured it out. And I said, and then they went to what they would call working as a state employee and a county employee. I only worked there 2 or 3 times a year, maybe less. But they wanted to make us all federal employees. And I said, no, thanks. I don't want anything to do with it. Because I knew what it was. Once it comes in with the federal government in, it's all centralized. It's controlled. And I'm not saying it simply wasn't before then. Okay. But we know that simply politics has always been corrupt. And they could always steal certain precincts. But they don't have to steal precincts anymore, folks. All they got to do is steal through electoral fraud by taking and changing numbers on a computer. Because we know they can do that. They're hacking into the system. And they can change it such and such, and next thing is such. And the trail such and such doesn't hold up. Or no one contested this. Anyway, I've kind of got off my subject here. But anyway, again, we'll keep struggling with this whole deal with certified mail. It's important that basically you keep you keep knocking on the door harder and harder, and more people do this. The more and more people see that they've been lied to. These people will not have any power to rule over you. That's the key. They will no longer have the power because you don't give them the power, because you don't vote anymore. And when you don't vote anymore, you're saying, I'm doing pretty well. I don't need you to represent me because you don't represent me. Never have. You see, when you get that in your crawl and you figure out this, this shit's going on all the time, enough is enough. And I've had enough. Okay. And I see things that go on in my own state. And I'm like, this shit's got to stop. And I don't live in California where it's even far worse. I mean, it's probably 10 to 15, 20 times worse than it is there than it is here. But my point simply is that I'm tired of lawyers. We had what we call a missing 13th Amendment. It was approved by 2/3 the majority of the states. It was constitutionally and was put in as an amendment, but it was destroyed during the Civil War. Okay? And after then, simply is the lawyers have had a free reign. And they're the ones that are the privileged ones, you see. Anyway, I better shut up here, but I appreciate you listening and you have a good night. And again, if you have questions, I'll be glad to try to share what I've learned and hopefully help you. But the hours are getting late, folks. And this whole thing, I mentioned this earlier today, the whole thing with Bitcoin is a farce. It's a, if you don't own it, you don't have it in your hands, you don't own it. You don't. You just don't. And that's the only way you're going to be able to deal with this whole thing. And I'm not saying that that's the most important thing. Food and water are by far the most important, and having a place to stay, by far. But you got to realize simply is that Trump is not your hero. And neither is Biden. They're just corporate men in a corporation. And when you realize that and sense that and know that, you say, I'm not going to take part of the game. I'm not going to be involved with a racket system. It's already rigged, and it's rigged against me. And it's been rigged against us for a long, long time. And when you say you don't, you're saying to them, and they don't have any power. Because when you get 30 or 40% of the people no longer voting, no longer paying taxes, and doing these type of things, then the government's going to realize, hell, things are going to have to start changing. You follow? That's how Poland was able to oust the communists. So eventually how Russia eventually fell from within. It always falls from within, folks. People said, I'm not going to participate in the system here. It doesn't work. The hell with it. I don't have anything to lose here. I've lost everything. And that's how people realize something. They come to the thing. I don't have anything to lose. The hell with it. Because they become so debauchery and evil that you say, I'm not going to participate in it. And that's where we're at today. Okay. Take care. Have a good night. Bye-bye.